Okay, first up we have a Katarina, and yeah, this is looking really good. I particularly like the material for the coat, and I mean, this is one example where the seams actually kind of work to your advantage because they're where the seams naturally are for the coat. This appears to be just a solid white color, and it'd be great to get, first of all, at least kind of make it a little bit off-white. Yeah, I mean, it just looks like it's just solid white, so at least, like, you know, take it down a bit like that. But better yet, to just have some colored variation in there, or find like a material texture on there. Yeah, the pants look good. I like this kind of shape for the zipper, and I love the belt. It just really makes the pants there. That looks really good. It ends there, but I think that's okay. We're not going to see that, but look at the belt loop there and all that. It's nice. And the buttons, yeah, I mean, if you wanted to put an image of a button on there, that would be nice, you know, like, I'm sure you could just either take a quick photo or download one and map it on there. I like what you've done with this hair. I think that's working out well. I think the mustache is okay. I think you might want to kind of get a little bit more having it follow the contour of the shape of that you'd expect a mustache to have, whereas it's very straight here, so I might work on that. And then I might paint something different, the sort of bristly part on the bottom, because the bottom looks a little funny. And you might want to kind of adjust this a little bit so it doesn't intersect the lip quite so far and we don't see it on the inside of the mouth. And yeah, eyebrows okay. I think they don't hold up that well when you get close, so, but I mean, you know, from a distance they're alright. Maybe a little darker. I feel like eyebrows don't get quite as whitish gray as hair sometimes. I don't know, I guess it depends. What else? I think the hands look like they're just a solid color. They're not. You have a map for that. Okay, what do I know? But maybe just paint a little bit more variation, because even if they're not a solid color, they kind of look like they are. So, and yeah, eyes are looking all right. The pupils kind of large, but I guess that's fine for a cartoony character. The seams on the shoe are really noticeable, and I don't know if that was intentional. I do like the texture you have for the sole, but you've got a seam there too, and the seam here. And so I'll try sending that to Mudbox. Where do we send to? There it is. So I'll send that as a new scene. Great. And so I'm going to make sure I'm in Paint Tools and go into the clone and hold down Control and click here and just kind of paint that out. Maybe get a nice, you know, sort of big brush size so it, you know, it fades, so that's less noticeable, that seam there. And so just go around and touch up your seams like that. You know, you can do the same thing here, but a just smaller version of that, you know, sample from here or something like that, and paint out those scenes. So I'm not going to do all of them, I'm just sampling it. And so let's try to send it back to Maya. This doesn't always work. Update current scene. Did something crazy to this shoe. Got confused, which is weird. But anyways, the point of you can see it got rid of those seams. So because I had something weird like that happen, what I might do instead is you can also just go and take this and do export selected, and then put this, and I'll call it like, let's make it a JPEG, and I'll call it, you know, this is boots, I'll call it boots 2 or something like that. And I saved it in the source images directory, and then I can go back and here, and this is like the manual way to do it if you're having a problem. I'm just going to double click on this, go into Control A for the attribute editor, and you know, you can browse for it, but I know the name is boots too, so I'm just going to type it in, and that should get that new one. You can see that seam's gone. I don't know why I flipped this upside down. It's very weird. R boot shape, L boot shape. I don't know, something about this confused. Maybe it's because maybe if I had it selected in Mudbox and just sent that instead of sending the whole scene, it wouldn't have got confused. But the point of the story is, well, let's just try it one more time. Let me reopen the file. I haven't really seen that happen before with the foot flipping. Oh, it's already updated anyways because it's just pointing to that JPEG file that I overwrote. But just out of curiosity, let's see what happens if I, let's just paint a little bit more like on this side. So hold down B, increase my brush side, control click to sample. It's not alt click like Photoshop, although you might be able to also alt click, whoops. But it wants you to do control click. Okay, so let's try this again. This time I'm going to go to my object list. Oh yeah, it looks like it has the right boot in there for some reason. That's probably why. Alright, so let me just say, just have this selected only, that left. No, it's the right, this is the right one, right? Yeah. Oh yeah, so the left one, it's like it says it's in there, but it's not. That's a little weird. Okay, so I'll make sure this right one's selected. Send to my update current scene. Let's see if that screws. See, it didn't flip that over. So just maybe make sure you have in the object list in Mudbox the correct thing selected. That was kind of odd, though. I haven't seen that before. But the point of the story is, you know, paint out your seams. I think that looks nicer without those noticeable seams. And that's a good sort of lesson for everybody to, you know, how to fix your seams. I think it looks great. I think you're doing a great job. Okay, next up is Andrea, and this is looking good. Got some nice detail in here. Really like the eyeballs and the makeup and stuff here. It looks good, and the eyeshadow. I don't know why these are so dense. You should be able to just use a regular sphere. So maybe just replace those with a regular sphere. I think the eyebrows, just it looks a little kind of stretched and weird here, so you might want to take another pass at that. And there's bits of the hair that look problematic, like this kind of piece here, and it's kind of, so might just yeah, work on this a bit more. I think, you know, on the top and back it looks good, but I think there's just some areas in front, like that there and this here, that got real blurry and weird. And I don't know if that's because of your UV map or just the way the texture's painting. Well, try to just paint it, and if that's not working, you might need to adjust your UV map. And what else? Lips look good. I like that there's an actual texture on the white, that it's not just a solid white, and these stripes look good. Although you might want to paint in some other little imperfections, so it's not quite so solid. And I can see that you have painted the skin, like it looks like maybe there's some little detail around the knee, but I would just look for other opportunities to paint some variation in the skin, because like from this distance it looks like just a solid color. So maybe think about areas that might be lighter or darker and kind of push it a little bit further. But it's alright. The boots, yeah, again, maybe a little bit too solid. Maybe think about some construction history, like where you might see a seam in the construction of it, of the boots. Although I like the color pattern. And the socks look good. And yeah, again, you've got some fabric texture on there. So really it's good. It's fine. I mean, I think it holds up pretty well. I think with this hair, just Control A for the attribute editor, go into the material. I mean, you'll have to kind of see in the render, but it looks a bit shiny, and theoretically the anisotropic material should do a good job, but you might just take the specular color and kind of pull it back a bit so it's not quite so shiny. We'll see how it looks when it renders out. But yeah, overall good job. Okay, next up is Ariana, and you said you're having some issues. First is this, it's looking kind of crazy, and I think it's your bump map. Whoops. So I just hit this to get that, and let's try to go down. Oh, in the bump depth, yeah, almost never do you go above 1 in the bump depth. So I would, first of all, you know, if I put it to 0, it look, you know, solve that entirely. But then, you know, if you wanted a little bit of that, you try like 0.1 or something. Even that looks like a lot. Even the 0.1 is a lot, and you had 3 something. So maybe 0.01 or 0.05 or something, or 0.01. I'm not sure exactly what you're going for, but that might look a little better, although it's just very, I don't know, it's kind of looking weird, so I might just lose that. And then, so you've got this marble texture on it, and then, so it doesn't look like you're painting your textures at all. This also has a marble texture assigned to it. Oh, it's got this boot. Oh, that's the marble is just the bump map that you're adding for some reason. So you have this boot.tiff image for the boots, although I'm not really seeing. Wait. Yeah, for some reason you have the boot.tiff assigned to the color of the material that's assigned to the shirt, and you have shirt assigned to the material that's assigned to the pants, although I'm not really seeing any detail of the painting. It just looks like a solid color anyway. And then you've again got the boot assigned to the color of the material that's assigned to the boots. So Lambert 3, Lambert 2, Lambert 4. I can see that up here in this tab. So yeah, you might want to make sure the right images are assigned to the right thing. So let's maybe take a look at some of these in Photoshop. I mean, to me it just looks like a totally solid color. Might open it up in Photoshop. So looking at this in Photoshop, it's just a solid color. I mean, you don't need to map an image if you're just using a solid color. The idea was to paint the texture. So yeah, that's so back in Maya, I just make sure you've got the right materials assigned to the right texture. So if you've messed up, so let's say, you know, here's a boot, I'll go into the hypershade, click this to show, you know, map materials and selected object, craft materials and selected object. So that one that is the boot, that's the right one. But for the shirt shape, for example, that's again graph materials on selected object. So here you've got the boot assigned to this. So what I would do is select that and then browse for, oh, here's shirt. Okay, there's a couple quick little marks on there. It's not really painted, but why is that? Okay, so now you got the shirt on there. The file name here, it's a little confusing. I think you might have the same. Let's look at this. Textures. I can't see those black marks. I don't know where they are. Oh, I see. No, it's right down here. Okay. Right? Oh no, that's on the pants. Okay, let's see what these are. So the shirt has been assigned to the pants. Anyways, just maybe let's be more careful. I'm just going to delete that off of there and then go into this and do map file. Make sure we're getting a new file in there. And this is the shirt. So let's make sure the shirt's mapped to the shirt. And let's just check that. Color, shirt. Good. Now let's go to the pants. Let's go to the hypershade. Interesting. Yeah, it was the same one for some reason. Oh, let's wait. Make sure we map. So pants, graph material and selected object. Okay. So that's shirt on there, but this should be pants. So I'm just going to delete that from there. Color, map, file, browse. And this is the shirt, right? Or pants. Oh, you don't have a... Where am I? You don't have a pants image in here. Which is just head, shirt, and boot. Let's see what's... So, you would need a separate head. Let's see what's mapped to the head. You do have that head, but it just looks like a solid color. So it doesn't really look like you've painted any of the textures yet. I hope this kind of, I know I've done a little messy, but I hope the kind of remapping the stuff makes sense to you. So we can see. So that it does have the boot texture on it. This now has the shirt texture on it. This, you know, you don't have a pants one, but you would browse for it there. So I might just kind of remap those. So yeah, I think you need to take a step back. And I mean, if you're struggling with Mudbox, you know, there's also the demonstration on how to do this stuff in Photoshop. Either one's fine. Just, you know, get the texture painted one way or the other. Next up is Johanna, and had a problem sending it to Mudbox. Keep in mind you don't have to paint it in Mudbox. You can paint it in Photoshop. I demonstrate that in the module as well. One thing I would do is do mesh cleanup before you send it, and you know, check. I wouldn't test like the four-sided faces, but anything with more than 4 sides or holes, I would leave that unchecked. Definitely lamina, non-manifold geometry, and edges with 0 and faces with 0. And then after you do that, send it to Mudbox and send as new scene. And I am getting some errors. It does have a lot of problematic geometry, but I'm just going to keep all anyways. And I've just got my paintbrush out, and you know, I can paint still, so it's not happy with the geometry, but it can paint it. I think I'm not sure what problem you're having when you try to send. You might want to make sure both that your Maya is 2018.2. You can see that here. Help about Maya 2018.2. Like the Autodesk updater can update that. Make sure you have a matching version of Mudbox. Make sure that you've set your project before opening your file and trying to send it. These are all things that should help. So it should work. I'm not sure why you're having a problem. You could always, you could always manually export it as an FBX file. Just make sure the plugin is loaded. Windows settings preferences, plugin manager. I believe it's, where is it? Oh, FBX Maya.mll, I think. Just make sure those are checked. And then you can do file, export, selection, options. If that's loaded, you should see the FBX export. And I would just use, just use the default. Oh, I won't let me do that, but just use the default, export it, and then import that file into Mudbox if it's not letting you send. So that's another method. But the send should work. So anyway, give that a shot. Next up is Vincent, and yeah, this is looking really good. I think like the the painting detail in the face and the stubble and all that, and kind of the detail in the skin of the nose. think you're kind of having an issue with this thing. Sort of want to see what's going on. Why isn't it showing me the image? It should show me the image. Socks? Oh, let's delete the history off of this first of all. Mask 1. Why is this called socks for some reason? That's interesting. Oh, did you just throw the same texture you have on the socks on the mask? I think that's the problem, is it's just not really laid out. What have I done to not show the image? Anyway, I don't know. Yeah, so you need to properly texture that because that looks weird. I think it's fine as the socks. Although I kind of think that if someone's in a jail... Oh, I see. It's like that. You're just showing the kind of the knit of the sock. Alright, well, it just seems a little bit contrasty. You know what you might try to do is... let's map material, graph material on selected objects. And if we go to this file, I think there's some color balance stuff we could do to decrease the contrast on this. Maybe not too high there, but just kind of playing with these a little bit, and then there's a bump map also. Wow, it's kind of there. Yeah, I might have gone too far with that. I would also decrease the bump. That's sort of making it. Is it yeah, right here. Maybe go to like 0.2 or something. 0.5 maybe. I think I went maybe too far with adjusting the contrast thing, but you get the idea. You can tweak that a little bit so it's not so super contrasty. But yeah, I think just choose a different thing for the mask. Maybe that was a mistake. I don't know. I think the mohawk thing is working from the side, just not from the top. So you might want to get an image of like, you know, brush bristles or something, and then paint that on the top, because that looks weird right now. Because you'd want to see sort of the ends of the hairs there. And yeah, the shiny gloves and the shiny shoes are a little distracting, and maybe it looks like it's just a solid color there. Let me just Alt-Shift-D to delete history. Gloves. Yeah, it looks... Oh, it's just black. It's just plain black. So, yeah, I mean, I would at least maybe make it not totally black, you know, and then not so shiny. Certainly. But it would be nice to, you know, paint some gloves on there, you know, paint some seams and some other detail on the gloves. And I think it's good how you got the numbers working really well, and it's nice and sharp and all that. But just maybe some more detail on here. It's just that really solid blue, and I think it'd be nice to have other little, I don't know, wrinkles or folds or dirt or some damage. I mean, you've done some of that nice stuff on these pants where you've got the fabric texture and all that, but you haven't done that on the shirt, so, and which makes it kind of stand out all the more. So I would do some of that on the shirt, get, you know, that part textured. So some really good stuff on here. I just think you need to you know, finish up some of the areas. Good facial texture, but this, top of that, gloves, maybe the shoes, or at least not so shiny. Where's our... Yeah. So keep going, finish up those other areas, but yeah, nice texture painting on the face. Next up is Shane. And yeah, what we see here is pretty good. I really like the work on the head. I like all this interesting painted detail here. Very alien-like. I'm not sure what the black versus the hexagon area is supposed to mean with the soft edges. Maybe get those edges a little harder, or paint some more detail in the black areas because it's looking a little odd. just being solid black. And I might tone down the I'm doing Alt-Shift-E to delete history, and then let's turn down some of that specular just so it's not quite so shiny. Maybe more. And then one thing about the boots, notice that you've got the initial shading group on here, so I would make sure, assign like a Lambert to them first, and then maybe when you bring them in, see this has now Lambert 7, whereas this has Lambert 1, which is the default one. You shouldn't use Lambert 1 on anything. It's just there as kind of the default. So maybe that would help. But either way, if you're in Mudbox and you're having some problem transferring back, if you go to your layers and right mouse click on, I know I don't have one in here right now, but imagine there's one in there, and you right mouse click and export selected, and then save that to your source images directory, and then back in Maya, color map, and then choose and file, color map, file, and then browse, and then if you saved in your source images directory, it'll go straight there, and then you can manually map it. So you don't have to use the send thing, you can manually do it, and maybe that would solve your problem. But yeah, you've got some good stuff going on here, in particular the face. It'd be good to get some eyeballs going. That's really going to help. But overall, keep going. And yeah, and the hands disappearing, I don't even know what, but re-import them from the last save version you have, and move forward from there. Next up is Yao Nan, and I think it's looking okay. You definitely got sort of the fur texture going on. I think that for me, I would have gone for the maybe smaller, because some of these, if you look at the size of the individual strands of fur, they look kind of big to me. So I might go with like a lot more finer stuff. I mean, I kind of like some of this area a little better. It's starting to look like fur, but I think you just need to kind of touch this up, because I'm looking at areas like that one, and this is looking pretty crazy here. Let's take a quick look at just to make sure the UV map is not any problem with the UV map. I mean, nothing obvious. Oh, we got some weird thing with the perspective camera. So yeah, I mean, there's no problem with the UV map. It's just you just need to work on painting the texture. And then I noticed there's these weird kind of black marks on the back. Although besides that, I like some of the fur painting on the back. It's at a little bit more the right scale. So try to get a more consistent scale. I can see where you're kind of painting, but and also think a little bit more about the direction of the fur. It's kind of going well, in some areas it's kind of going every which direction, like this. These kind of horizontal bits look weird. So you want a kind of more of a consistent flow to the direction. And like here, this is going down the arm, which kind of makes more sense, but this is going this way, which looks odd. I feel like it would go along the arm. So it really matters with your paintbrush if you're using like a template brush or whatever in Mudbox, that it goes along there. So I think you've got the right idea, and I think you've got a good brush you're using. I'm assuming you're doing this in Mudbox. I just think it just needs more work. Yeah, that looks like you made it in Mudbox. So I think just spend more time on the painting. That's what it comes down to. You might even try like laying down a base coat of a color or patches of different colors, and then like paint with a bit of a lighter touch with like a lower opacity. So it's not just the fur colors, there's like a base color, and then you paint that on top, and that way you don't have to, you could have areas that just have a little bit more of kind of a subtle or hinted fur on it, rather than completely depending on that brush. But yeah, and again, like looking at this weird direction here, so Yeah, I think keep going on that. But it's okay. It just could be a lot better, and I think you're close. Next up is Natalie, and first I just wanted to mention that if you look at the assignment, you need to do this as an archived scene, and it explains how to do that right here. Because if you just send your Maya file, I don't have your texture images, so I can't take a close look at it in Maya. Um, but we can look at this, um, and yeah, I mean, to me, it looks like the texture in the pants is scaled up a bit, and it looks like everything else is a solid color. Looks like you want to get a lot more detail in the eyeballs. So it looks like you just kind of started, assigned a few colors, and haven't really painted all your textures yet. So good that you got started, but keep going and make sure to turn in the archived scene. There's not too much for me to kind of review here, so because it doesn't look like you've painted most of it. So keep going.